So, welcome to my Black Widow spoiler review. Literally, this was cut off halfway while I was filming it because there's a flash flood warning in my area. Oh well, let's just deal with this. So I wanted to take a few days to make sure people saw this movie before I even talked about it in depth. Because I feel like in my original review I didn't really talk a whole lot about some of the things that happened in that movie and how I felt about them, and I felt like I couldn't really say anything else other than, oh, the acting was fine, and the action was, and the story was, and the humor was awkwardly placed. So here I can actually talk about it a lot more. So if you haven't seen Black Widow at this point, this is your warning, spoilers everywhere. So the opening scene of this movie, it's fine. You see Natasha and Yelena as, young kids, and basically David Harbour and Rachel Weisz, they're supposed to be their parental figures they're all hiding out in Ohio, and they're compromised. They have to run, they have to hide from S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is chasing them, I guess, and it's kind of a cool scene when you see David Harbour on the wing, but it's also kind of goofy because he's literally flying on a wing. How is that even possible? And this is how Natasha finds out that she can fly a plane. Which, to be fair, they actually teach her how to fly a plane, unlike, someone who just learns it like Wonder Woman. But, oh well. Anyway, they get to Cuba, and during this whole thing, Rachel Weisz's character has been shot. How did she survive the whole thing? It looks like she's about to die, and she's, taken away right when the girls are about to be taken away before her dad's you guys are strong, you'll make it through. And then it cuts to the opening credits, which is very well done, mainly because of that haunting cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit, which I thought was a very good choice for a song. And I thought, the overall scenes was actually very horrifying, and it was actually very well done. It's actually kind of sad that this is one of the better aspects of this movie. The opening credits is one of the better things about this movie. Anyway, in this scene, you kind of learn various things. Mainly, Black Widow went rogue, went to join the Avengers, and as she killed the person, she thought she was, getting revenge on the person who was controlling the Red Room by killing his daughter. So that hangs over a lot of the movie. It kind of makes me think, wait, did Black Widow really kill a child at one point? I don't know if I can really support this character anymore. But anyway, let's move on to present day, or in this case, 2016, because this movie takes place right after Captain America Civil War and right before Avengers Infinity War. And so Black Widow's on the run. She was in violation of the Sokovia Accords. William Ross is chasing after her. And so she's kind of in hiding. She kind of comes across all these people from her past, mainly Yelena Belova, who... She's kind of this cold-hearted Black Widow as she really went through the training, and she's kind of on the hunt for other rogue Black Widows. So she finds one, they get into a little fight scene, which again, the fight scenes in this movie are they're cut so fast. And at the same time, when you can see what's actually happening, they kind of look like cartoon characters for the most part, and that's kind of sad. But anyway, Belova, she fights one of these rogue Black Widows, and she comes across this red antidote that basically frees the Black Widows. It's so she's no longer brainwashed. Okay, that's cool. And as far as the antidotes go, it's fine, I guess. It's not like it's a bad thing about this movie. But at the same time, wouldn't it make more sense if they were just simply brainwashed? I feel like that would be a lot darker than oh, there's a potion, and you can take, and it's just a puff of smoke, and it's just, you're fine. You're back to normal. You may have killed some people, but you're fine. And anyway, Belova was like, man, I should give this to Natasha so she can look at it. So Natasha doesn't even know that she has these vials with this antidote, and she's attacked by Taskmaster. They get into a little fight. She finds out, hey, that's why. So that's why this guy was after me. Yeah, I said this guy, and I'll talk about that, definitely. And so eventually, she comes across Yelena Belova, they have another fight, and again, the fight scenes, they don't look that great, honestly. And again, I kind of blame the director because she hasn't really done action scenes before, so I thought they were better than the ones in Fast 9, if that gives it any hope. But anyway, the scenes with Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh as they bond, those scenes are really good. I really like those scenes. Like, Yelena's kind of making fun of the poses that Black Widow does. And you see later on in the movie that she does her own pose as well, and she's kind of wants to, like, barf or whatever. And those scenes are really funny. Florence Pugh carries this movie for the most part. I thought she was really good in this movie. She nails her comedic scenes, she nails her action scenes, and she nails her dramatic scenes. So she was the only character in this entire movie who was well-rounded, and I can't wait to see what they do with her in Hawkeye, whatever they do with her. I can't wait. So anyway, they come across each other, they fight other Black Widows and Taskmaster again, they escape, of course, and they learn the main villain's actually alive, and the Red Room is still active, so let's take that out. So then they have to, get in contact with David Harbour's character, who's in jail, which, this is a weird one for me, because the way that David Harbour's character is portrayed at first, you would think he's this very serious guy who really cares about his family, or at least, is protective of Natasha and Yelena. And in this one, and then in present day, he's Red Guardian, kind of. He's the Russian equivalent to Captain America, but you never really get to see any of that, unfortunately. And so he's kind of like making jokes. He's in jail. He's arm wrestling other prisoners while he's getting a tattoo. I don't know why. It just seems weird. But anyway, he's really strong. He can beat all these guys in arm wrestling. So they help him escape this jail, and they probably kill a bunch of people during an avalanche, but whatever. Never addressed again. Oh well. And again, it just feels weird having these jokes. There's a scene where they're kind of talking, they're arguing, and David Harbour brings up, oh, is it that time of the month? And they're both offended by that suggestion, because obviously they got hysterectomies when they were in the Red Room. And yeah, why would you talk about that in a movie? Not necessarily talk about the subject matter, but like, why would you talk about it in that way? Like, why would you try to make jokes about something that's actually very serious like that? Even for a Marvel movie, which just makes jokes constantly. That was kind of low, to be honest. Like, I kind of felt gross watching that. It just felt like it was uneven, it was just awkward, and it just wasn't that funny. It's just tragic. I don't want to think about that. Meanwhile, even though like there are scenes where they do bond, like mainly David Harbour and Florence Pugh, there are scenes in this movie where they bond, like they sing American Pie at a couple points in the movie. And those scenes are nice, but they don't really treat David Harbour's character very well throughout the entire movie. Mainly, like, they kind of see him as a joke. You don't really get to see any fighting with him. He's not really clued in on the plan. Not the whole, hey, Rachel Weisz and Scarlett Johansson are going to swap faces for a while. Not even clued to that. Doesn't even get an earpiece during the fight. Oh well, he's only the muscle, I guess. I just feel like, obviously women get the short end of the stick in movies a lot. I'm not going to deny that. But I feel like maybe you shouldn't do the opposite. Give men the short end of the stick. I feel like that's also wrong. I don't know. Anyway, I just want to move on. So then they find out from David Harbour's character that the woman who would play the mother, oh yeah, she's still alive. She still works for the Red Room, and she lives on this farm. They go to her, and the dinner scene in this movie is actually really good because, like, again, they're kind of all arguing about, like, the whole family situation and, like, it wasn't real or anything. But, Yelena, it was real. Again, Florence Pugh is really good in this movie. She is, I would even go as far as say she's perfect in this movie. That was also really good, and basically in this scene as well, they eventually learn, oh, I created the antidotes, here's how this works. And then they're kidnapped by the bad guys. And it's kind of implied at first that Rachel Weisz is on Ray Winstone's team throughout the entire movie. Like, they're kidnapped, and she goes to Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz goes to Florence Pugh, and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, before knocking her out. And then it just cuts to them on the in the Red Room, basically. Not in the Red Room, but, part of the whole experience. So, anyway, it's revealed that, basically, at first Rachel Weisz is going to Ray Winstone's character, and then he just deduces that, oh, that's not Rachel Weisz, that's actually Natasha. So, yeah, they have this face mask swapping, not necessarily swapping, but face mask technology. I don't know how. I really don't know how. Did they borrow it from Nicolas Cage and John Travolta? I have no idea. So anyway, Natasha's actually with Ray Winstone, who Ray Winstone's just awful in this movie. Not necessarily just his character. His character is awful, but his acting is awful too. Like, it's like his accent is terrible and his character is just so generic. It's like the most generic backstory, the most generic plan. It's just boring at this point. Just no. It's just kind of bland. It's like one of the blandest villains Marvel's ever had, to be honest. So Black Widow confronts Ray Winstone, and he controls all the Black Widows with the button, basically. And this is probably one of the scarier parts of the whole movie, is that he has agents from all around the world, which that's the really scary part. Not anything else, but that's just the really scary part about this whole thing, that this whole mission is actually global. But oh well, that's actually scary, so... But the dumbest thing about it is that he has this pheromone around him that protects him in case any of the Black Widows, get out of line. And it's really stupid. It's a really stupid thing, but eventually, Black Widow, she breaks her nose so she can't really smell the pheromone or whatever. Okay, whatever. It was such a stupid thing. The pheromone is stupid. And anyway, we find out that Taskmaster is actually his daughter that Black Widow thought that she killed at the beginning. And I know a lot of people seem to be really upset that they gender bent this character. And, I can kind of see what they're going for because, Black Widow, Natasha and Yelena, they both were traumatized by this whole Red Room experience. So now they have a villain who is also traumatized by this in a way, but they don't really realize what they really went through. So it worked, but at the same time, it's like I can understand why people are upset about that. So anyway, everyone's kind of just on their own, kind of doing various things, like Red Guardian's fighting Taskmaster at one point. Rachel Weisz is trying to turn off engines, and of course she's discovered. Meanwhile, Belova is searching for other Black Widows, and that's when she kind of does her own Black Widow pose, which was funny. And it just kind of feels generic again. It just didn't really do anything for me. Anyway, the villain escapes, and basically he sends all the other Black Widows to kill Natasha before Yelena comes in and kind of like throws an antidote bomb at all of them, and everything seems fine. They're all back to normal. Let's just get out of here. And so, yeah, that was kind of disappointing. It would have been really cool to see Black Widow fight all these other Black Widow agents, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. I feel like it would have been really cool to see like some sort of fight, but no, it just ends pretty quickly because of a antidote bomb. But oh well. Anyway, everyone is escaping at some points, and Belova takes out all the bad guys, including Ray Winstone. Okay, fine. Didn't really do anything for me, but yay, he's dead. I'm happy about that. And Black Widow, she's fighting Taskmaster in the sky. Everything explodes in the facility. They're all like falling to Earth. And they just kind of look like cartoon characters throughout the entire movie. It probably would have been cool to see this in IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX. I saw it on a regular screen. But it would have been really cool to kind of see that fight, even though it kind of looks cartoonish. Like, I feel like a lot of things should have happened that just didn't happen. Like, pretty much all the good guys live. All the bad guys die. Like, none of the Black Widows die. No one in Black Widow's family dies. Taskmaster doesn't die. They all just make it to the ground safely. Like, everything's just fine. We just had a little accident. It's fine. But no, everyone survives this. I don't know how. But anyway, Black Widow and Taskmaster fight, and then they make it to the ground, and they have one last vial. So naturally, Black Widow smashes it to kind of make Taskmaster back to normal, and she's back to normal now. So, okay, fine. Whatever. It's not like it really, I guess, again, I get what they're going for. I can understand why people are upset. I feel like it works for the movie enough, but not to the point where it's like, oh, this is game-changing or anything. No, it really isn't. Wasn't expecting this movie to be game-changing, but still. So anyway, Black Widow reunites with her family, and it kind of seems like, oh, we should do this more often, even though this takes place right before Endgame, so you're not really going to have a lot of time left, unfortunately. I feel like there should have been at least one scene where it was like one of the parents dies. Like, it would have made sense for Rachel Weisz to sacrifice herself because she was like part of this whole Red Room experience, and it's like, I denounce everything about this and I'm going to sacrifice myself. But no, she doesn't. It would have been better if either of them really sacrificed. It would have been better if Rachel Weisz or David Harbour sacrificed themselves to this. But no, that didn't happen. And that's unfortunate. Well, at least they live, so that's good. So there's like no sense of like, we know what's going to happen next. It's like, again, like, obviously Black Widow, she died in Avengers Endgame. So it could have been like a sense of like, oh, we need to like keep in contact in case something like this happens. And they're never brought up again. Not during this entire movie. Not during Endgame or whatever. Oh, well. Anyway, Elena, Red Guardian, and Rachel Weisz, they all leave. And Black Widow's just standing there. She's waiting for Ross to come by to say you're under arrest or something for being in violation of Sokovia Accords again. And then right before that happens, it cuts to black. And it cuts to black, and then it goes to her, cuts to her like going back to her friend who's kind of been helping her throughout this whole thing, giving her tips, helping her with her missions and weapons and such. So she gets the Quinjets so she can go free the other Avengers who are still in prison. And I feel like that shouldn't have been in the movie, per se. I didn't think that was actually necessary. Like, so, I should mention this. There's no tribute to Chadwick Boseman in this movie. Not in the Marvel opening credits or in the end credits. I feel like that should have been like a tribute to him at some point. I didn't need to see Black Widow get her Quinjet. I just need to see... I feel like that should have been like a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Because, like, remember what they did with Stan Lee when Captain Marvel came out? They had that opening montage of him in the Marvel logo. Like, that was a really powerful tribute that made the entire audience that night that I saw it applaud. I feel like that would have been a really good thing to do. Like, a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. But oh well, we get to see how Black Widow gets the Quinjet. And it just didn't really do anything for me. And then the end credit scene, the post-credit scene, Belova, she goes to Black Widow's tombstone. Obviously, she's probably not there. She's probably still in Vormir or whatever. And so she's encountered by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Val from Falcon and Winter Soldier, who I guess was supposed to be in Black Widow before Falcon and Winter Soldier, but plans changed, of course. And so, and Val is like, oh, I hate this area or something like that. I don't remember the joke, but it seemed kind of funny. Is like, is she supposed to be like, but her character's like very, very secretive, very, I'm guessing it's supposed to be like the anti-Nick Fury, where she's like recruiting all these people to be like the opposite of like what they were of their counterparts. Like John Walker was pretty much the opposite of Steve Rogers. So is that what's going to happen to Yelena with Black Widow? Like, it's either Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts, and whichever one, I just want to see more Yelena. I just want to see more Yelena. That's all I care about. So anyway, Val shows up. She's like, hey, here's the person who's responsible for killing your sister. And it's a picture of Hawkeye, which will lead into the Hawkeye TV show, I guess. So I'll definitely look out for her when she's in the Hawkeye TV show. But I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't know where they can go with that, though. Is she going to encounter Jeremy Renner or Haley Steinfeld? Whichever one. I don't know. So, overall, there's a lot of things I really do like about this movie. Like, I do like the serious scenes. I do like the bonding moments. I just don't really care for the villain, and I don't really care for the action scenes. It's enjoyable, and I do think it's darker than a lot of these other Marvel movies, and I think those situations are handled well. But again, the action's not that great, which I don't really blame on the director per se, because she hasn't really directed action before. So, and the villain, well, that's just Marvel Villain Rating 101. You just make a villain bad by being bad for various reasons that aren't, like, not counting, like, some of the other villains from the past few years, like, say, Hela from Thor Ragnarok, or Thanos, or Killmonger. But this is just one of the more generic villains. I just didn't really care for them, or think they were that well written. But again, the family moments are really good. Well, family moments are really good. It's just the action scenes, villain scenes. A lot of the things that do happen in this movie, I'm like, I'll let it slide or whatever. I'm just like that with movies sometimes. I get unless I'm like really mad at a movie, and I was never mad at this movie, except for like I don't know why I said that. I wasn't mad during this movie, so I'll still keep it at 2.5 out of 4 stars. I do think it is enjoyable enough, but I can understand why some people might not enjoy this movie as much. And when you see from my list of movie, like, I'm going to do a ranking list on Tuesday of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, you'll see this is in the bottom half. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Black Widow with spoilers? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.